everyone, this is Heather. I am giving you some advice today on how to move from your pre-writing for Essay 3 to your rough draft. Essay 3 is, as you know, a problem/proposal statement, and I just finished reading all of your pre-writing work, and you had a lot of great ideas, and I want to really maximize your effort between now and the time that your rough draft is due so that you can do a good job on it and have a good start to this assignment. Okay, so I have just a few specific suggestions and tips. The first one really applies to only some of you, and that is to address any issues of scope that I raise in the comments that I've given you. So everyone should go back to the discussion board for pre-writing for Essay 3 and see the comments that I gave you. They're really specific. Most of you have a good scope. You've picked something very specific that relates to a specific audience or context. A few of you picked something that could potentially be too narrow in scope, or more problematically, probably something that's too large in scope, that's too wide. There are reasons explained in the lesson commentary about why something that's too big of a scope doesn't work with this assignment. It makes it really hard to write an effective proposal, and I want you to be able to write something that that's feasible and that allows you to do this assignment well. So if I've made a comment about scope, then take that to heart and stay in close communication with me via email so that we can adjust the scope, that you can adjust the scope, and I can give you some feedback on that as you move forward. Okay, the next point is something that should apply to pretty much everyone. You want to make sure that your proposal is a specific plan of action. And remember that there are three really important parts of this assignment. The first part is addressing and explaining the problem. The second is providing an explanation of alternatives, of competing ideas that might be feasible. And the third part, and this should be really the longest part, is really talking about your specific proposal. The one of those alternative ideas or possible ideas that really makes the most sense to you. Okay, so again, the first part is a problem statement. What's the problem? A second part is, weighing the different options that might be available, and third, and most important, what you should give the most weight to is your own specific proposal. And you should not think about this as just kind of a general statement like fund this important activity in our community, but really as a specific roadmap of what will lead up to the outcome that you want to see and what that outcome would be. Okay, so it really should be a roadmap of specific suggestions. Okay, let's look at an example that I created of a problem statement and proposal statement that isn't working too well. This is one that I just made up myself. I wrote, too many elderly people go without nutritious meals. That's the problem statement. My proposed solution is Meals on Wheels, a valuable service in the U.S., should receive more community funding. Okay, valuable idea, Meals on Wheels is a good program, but as a problem and proposal statement, this isn't working because it's way too large, it's way too unspecific, it doesn't get into details, and I'm going to have a really hard time explaining how this general idea should really come to fruition. You can probably hear the sirens in the background. Sorry about that. Okay, I revised this problem and proposal statement so that it's a lot more specific. So here's the problem statement. The Stark County Meals on Wheels program serves approximately 5,000 clients and has a wait list of another 1,000 persons in need. That's a problem. It's very measurable, it's very specific. My proposal. I suggest that the Stark County Meals on Wheels agency work with 15 local religious organizations to develop a supplementary driver program that could provide services to approximately 1/3 of the current wait list. Okay, what's good about this statement? For one thing, it's entirely more specific. It's way more specific than my first problem and proposal statement. And it really sets me up to write a good proposal because it allows me to move forward and provide an explanation of what is this supplementary driver program look like? What is it? I have to really paint a picture for my reader of what I envision. It's an idea in my head. I have to really explain it. I need to provide a rationale for why this is the best way to move forward, and why this is an important goal, and why my proposal makes the most sense, and why it works. And then kind of a roadmap that really shows how this driver program would unfold, or how it would get started, or who we'd have to contact, or what we'd have to do, who would be involved. So you can see this is really an activity that asks you to kind of dream up an idea and do a lot of thinking with great specificity in order to convincingly suggest that someone should do something, that they should spend a lot of time and money doing something that is your idea. Okay, in order to do this, you will need to do some research, and you can do research in several ways. So remember, you need to justify your idea, and you also want to address that there could be some alternatives. And the only way to really do that is to do some research and understand how others are looking at this problem, or how they're potentially addressing the problem. So I give a few examples here about the rec center, about speeding motorists, about food delivery in a hospital. These are based on some student examples. And these are questions that you might want to look at. Example questions for how you might start your research based on your idea. The most important thing here is to remember that proposal writing is a really great activity. I like this assignment because it so relates to things that you might have to do in your real life. And it's a really useful skill. But when you go about writing a proposal for something, or thinking about change, usually you do one of two things. You either say, well, someone else had this really great idea, they did it over here, I think we can do it in our situation, in our workplace, or in our community. So then you have to do research to understand how those other people did that really good thing, and that requires research. Sometimes you do research because you really don't think that there is an appropriate solution. So you kind of have to see what has worked elsewhere, or what has been tried elsewhere, and use that to say, those things didn't work, or they wouldn't work for us, and here's how I'm going to build my proposal based on that research. So, the bottom line is that you're asking people to pay attention to something you care about, to do something, to take action, to spend time, energy, and money on an idea that you think is worthwhile. So you have to really give them some good reasons to do that, and you have to be specific. Okay, last point, and then I'll be all done. I started telling some of you in my responses to write to a 5th grader. And this is just kind of a silly little way of helping you remember that you are discussing problems that are really familiar to you for the most part, especially for those who are writing about something in your workplace. You have to remember that I don't spend my days in a hospital. Your readers don't know what it's like to work in an IT department, or whatever the situation may be. So you need to really break down the problem and give us really specific ideas about what your context is. If it's a community or a workplace, like, what do you do, and who's there? What are the demographics? Kind of give us a orientation to what you're talking about, what the problem is, who's involved, who is the audience. And I think that you don't want to talk down to your audience. When I say write to a 5th grader, it's not about talking down to someone. It's really about helping teach. You need to teach us. When you tell us the problem, you need to teach us about that problem. And I think when you, in your mind, envision talking to a group of 5th graders, you really have to explain yourself in a way that everyone can understand. So this is just kind of a silly exercise, or visualization, if you will, just to help you step back and say, okay, I can't use the jargon from work. I can't talk about all these, all this terminology, or I can't talk about systems in a way that doesn't make sense to someone who is totally not part of that world. So really slow down, and remember, as a final note, that In real life, proposals get read by people who they don't have time to read proposals about change. Maybe if they asked you to write a proposal, they're interested in reading it, but 9 times out of 10, a proposal is given to someone who already has a full plate. So you have to really break things down, make this really easy to grasp. I think that the Be Green campaign, the proposal that's in the textbook that many of you wrote about for a different short writing activity, that had sections. It really broke the whole proposal down into easy chunks, and it was very easy to read. So use that as a good model, and remember that you really have to step back and give us an orientation and talk to us, write to us, remembering that most of us don't know anything about your workplace, so you really need to describe that to us. Okay, thanks for listening. I hope this helps. Email me if you have any questions, and good luck and have fun as you keep writing.